Wait, what did Cassie just say?
I love freak offs.
What's up, y'all? It's your man, Cashmere California, and I am sitting here with the beautiful Mrs. California. Not only beautiful physically, but beautiful mentally. That's why I picked her. But we are doing a recap for y'all with the Diddy Trial, and we here at the Hip Hop Report are going to keep you locked in weekly with a full recap so that y'all know what's going on with Diddy, what's going on with Cassie, what's going on with this trial in hip hop. Babe, what are the allegations that our man, Sean Diddy Combs, is facing?
So he's being charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's hard to come back from.
It's also hard for the prosecution to prove, though.
Right. Now, for people that don't understand, why is it so hard to prove that? I mean, they got videos, they got Cassie on the stand, they got all this evidence that we've even seen. What makes it difficult in court?
Because they have a lot of witnesses that are willing to come forward and say that they voluntarily showed up for these sexual events. There are a lot of folks who are saying that they were paid to do this. This was their job at the time. These were a lot of escorts. So it's hard for them to prove sex trafficking because sex trafficking is obviously not voluntary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the transportation to engage in prostitution is probably the easiest one for the prosecution to get.
Okay, so do we know if they have to prove every charge or can they prove one or two? Like, how does that work?
So the jury can find guilty or not guilty on each charge. So this is not like a RICO case, like the Young Thug case where you had to prove each charge to meet your burden.
Right.
So the jury can find guilty on transportation to engage in prostitution and then find not guilty on sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy.
Let's first go back for everybody. So what are the dates? You know what I mean? I think a lot of people want to know, like, when did this happen? I didn't even realize that they had been dating that long.
Yeah. So, if you were immersed in pop culture at the time, you did know back in 2008, 2009 that Diddy was dating Cassie. You did know that there was a large age gap between the two of them. I believe it's like 17 years or something like that. So you did see them showing up on red carpets together. You did see them at different parties or obviously at different Hollywood hotspots together.
Yeah.
So this is, back many, many years ago.
And so why? Okay, you said it was 17 years of gap. So how old was Cassie?
At the first situation that we learned about in this trial between Diddy and Cassie was him kissing her in a bathroom at her 21st birthday party.
Okay, so outside of the rumors that she was like 19 or something, I don't know when they first met.
They did meet when she was around 19. He introduced her to some executives at his label as an artist that he had just recently signed. So earlier in their meeting, it was completely business.
Got it.
And then as time progressed, then he showed interest in her romantically.
Got it. Okay, so around 21, you said?
21 on her 21st birthday.
21st birthday.
When their relationship started.
He was like, "You good now?"
Right.
Listen.
Right.
I done waited long enough.
Right.
We can go on and get to this. All right. So how long was their relationship?
10, 11 years. So some say 10, some say 11. So 10, 11-ish.
Okay. Now, I think this is the big part. Like, why? Like, why is this happening right now?
So Cassie filed a civil lawsuit against him in November of 2023. So there were settlement negotiations before she filed her lawsuit. She asked for an undisclosed at the time sum of money.
Right.
He was not interested in paying.
Right.
When she said, if you don't pay up, I'm filing this lawsuit. He was like, I'm Diddy. I'm the king of the gods. You ain't getting no money out of me. And so then she filed her lawsuit. At the time, we did not know what the amount was that he ended up paying. He paid her 24 hours after she filed her lawsuit in court.
We all knew something was up when that happened.
Right. Because, and I mean, his defense team should have known better.
Right.
At the time that she filed her lawsuit, they should have just decided to go to court, because once you pay, then everybody else is out for the money grab. But
right.
At the time, we didn't know the amount that they had settled for. Later on during the trial, we found out that they settled for $20 million.
Which I know for Diddy, that was like a win.
I don't know.
$20 million for Diddy?
$20 million to settle with Cassie, but then now you have to deal with the feds. Now you have to deal with all of these other folks coming out with allegations against him that he did all of these other things. There are a lot of folks alleging that he engaged in SA with them. There were a lot of folks alleging that he R'd them. There are a lot of men coming out and saying that he did things with them or to them. So I don't know. It's not just 20 million anymore. Now he's on federal trial.
I will say that, I think you're right. When I was saying it was a deal for him, is because I believe that Diddy feels like, and this is not just Diddy. I feel like a lot of powerful people in the world feel like I have enough money that I can throw it at any fire that comes up.
Sure.
I can, put out any burning bush. And so for a 10-year relationship to have all of what we're finding out involved in it, and this person saying like, yo, I'll be the one to take you to the cleaners. 20 mil sound like a golden ticket. Like, that's it?
I think she initially asked for 32 or 36 or something like that. So if that's the way that he and his team chose to look at it, he should have looked at 32, 36 is a win for him. Because now you pay the 32, the 36. Nobody knows about your sexual proclivities.
Right. Okay. So let's, so we got a $20 million settlement.
Yes.
That like really starts the situation.
Right.
And so
the lawsuit is what starts it.
The lawsuit starts it.
Right.
Then how do we get to the video that we've all seen? Like, what's the time frame of that? Don't worry, we're gonna get into this week, because a lot of this is for the people that are not up to speed on the trial. Instead of just jumping into Cassie on the stand right now, and you're kind of like, where'd this come from? We know a lot of people just have not been abreast of all the information. So we'll try to put a timestamp in here. So if you already know all this, you want to just jump to what she say about the free costs, we can do that. But let us kind of build this up, and we're gonna get into the thick of it, I promise. So the Intercontinental video that we see,
yes,
how does that correlate with the lawsuit?
So this is after she files the lawsuit. So lawsuit is filed in November 2023. We saw the 2016 Intercontinental video earlier this year in 2025.
Yeah.
So this is after the feds have already started investigating. This is after multiple folks have started coming out with allegations against him after he settles his civil lawsuit with Cassie. So now folks are starting to peek around some corners. Now folks are starting to shake some trees. CNN gets this video footage, and CNN is who first publicized this video.
So we believe that the lawsuit tipped off the feds.
The lawsuit definitely tipped off the feds.
So okay, so then
because no one was investigating him.
Right. This almost feels like a Cosby situation.
Right.
Then Burris goes and makes a joke, and then all of a sudden it gets all the leaves get kicked up in the air again.
Exactly.
Okay, so now the feds are watching him. CNN drops this video.
Right.
Then Diddy with his terrible apology video.
Right.
Doesn't help the scenario. Couldn't.
Right.
And then we're here. Well, hold on. No, then we had other stuff. We had Little Rod. There was other stuff that came out.
They were all of these things were kind of happening at the same time.
Got it.
So the CNN video comes out around the same time as Little Rod's lawsuit. Excuse me. Don Richard's lawsuit. You have the feds raiding both his LA and Miami homes, finding a ton of evidence to kind of corroborate what Cassie alleged in her civil lawsuit.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things were happening at the same time. This moved very quickly. So the defense team decides to waive their right to a speedy trial. So This trial came very soon after the feds initially announced their first indictment. There was a superseding indictment following, but their first indictment led to almost an immediate set of a trial date. So charges like this, we typically would have seen a trial start many, many months after this, probably later into 2025. But the defense team wanted to go ahead and get a jump on it now.
And so what is that? What's the strategy of the defense to feel like, let's hurry up and do it?
Because they wanted to get him out. So there were multiple attempts at bond hearings, Diddy being released, and the prosecution made obviously multiple very successful attempts at suggesting that he's a danger to the public. They have suggested that he has intimidated quite a few witnesses. So they were able to convince the court that it was not a good idea for him to be released.
Got it.
So the defense team is saying, let's just waive the speedy trial. We'll hurry up and get this trial over with, because they feel confident enough in their case that at the conclusion of the trial, Diddy will be able to walk and he'll be able to go home.
All right, defense. All right, I can't be mad at that. I would want that. I would want allegedly a strong, confident defense team that's like, no, let's get it going now. Right. Well, I don't need no time. I got everything I need. Right. I would rather that. That would make me feel confident if I'm him sitting in the hot chair, right? So now we move into these last few weeks. We started with the search for the jury. Yeah. They started with 600 potential jurors. Yeah. Dwindle that down over around a 2-week span. There were some hiccups in that. Y'all can go look that up if you want to. We're not going to get into the jury selection and how that went overall, but there was some turbulence there. Yes. But successfully, they made it down to 12 jurors, 6 alternates. Right. And now it's time to go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. This is week 1. First day. How's it go?
So, like you said, they have a jury of 12, 6 alternates, a makeup of age ranges 30 to 74. Yeah. There's 8 men, 4 women on the jury, and they all are college educated, which I think is good for both the defense and the prosecution, because it means that the jury makeup is going to be able to understand a lot of the intricacies of the evidence that's going to be presented by both sides.
Yeah, I think that was really good. People that are like intelligent, they're going to keep up with it. Right. Nothing's going over their head. No terminology they're missing. Like, we good. Exactly. Keep going, run with it. I actually wrote down, because I thought it was dope that they got a wide range of those college educated jurors. So you have everyone from like 51-year-old, there's a 51-year-old male who's a scientist with a PhD in molecular biology. Right. There's a 42-year-old female who's a nursing aide. There's a 30-year-old female who's a deli clerk. Like, there's a wide span of people, which I think gives you the best chance on both sides. Right. When you're trying to find a good jury, is to have people from various walks of life that lived in different time frames and have dealt with different things in their lives. Right. Yeah, that's dope. So great to that. The biggest part of the judicial system, the most important part is the jurors. Yeah. So salute to all the jurors that are sitting there. I know that's got to be a pressure cooker of a moment. Right.
The trial is expected to last from 8 to 10 weeks. So there's a lot of information that we are going to hear in the next couple of months. And it's interesting that they put Cassie first, third, but in the first week. She is 8 months pregnant. So one of their concerns is there being a mistrial if she goes into labor prior to completing her testimony.
That makes sense.
So there was a lot of conversation outside of the presence of the jury, where the defense and the prosecution were engaging in dialogue with the court, making sure that each side was able to get all of their questions out before anything adverse happened to her health-wise.
Which would make sense, because, I mean, she's your star.
She is your star.
Everybody wants to hear from Cassie. There's other people that we like to hear from. Right. But we want to hear from Cassie.
Right. There are 3 victims that were named in the indictment. So Cassie being one. Yeah. There's a Jane Doe whose name has not yet been released. And there was initially a witness number 3, but witness number 3 has gone missing. So we don't know where victim number 3 is.
Okay. I ain't saying that. I want to be here. Okay, I want to make it to week 8 of this trial right here. I don't need.
There are quite a few people who were initially going to be witnesses in this trial who have, I don't want to say disappeared, but who
Right.
have like disappeared. One of Diddy's former bodyguards, big homie CC, he mentioned that he was poisoned 3 times, and the toxicology report listed cyanide. And
Wow.
cyanide is said to metabolize into pneumonia, which is what we heard Kim Porter die from. I'm not saying it's a mystery. I'm just saying it's a mystery. You know what I mean?
Hey.
And he said he was hit by his car. He was involved in an accident by a car with blacked out windows with no license plate. And he also was someone who has recently been speaking out against Diddy and a lot of the goings on when he was bodyguarding for Diddy. So again, I'm not saying that there's some there. I'm just saying that's a little weird.
That's weird.
That's a little weird.
That's weird. We all heard about the Kid Cudi story.
Right.
I don't know.
And we'll get into it.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to come up in this trial. I don't know.
It came up already.
Oh, it did?
It did. During Cassie's testimony.
Let's go. All right, so we're on day 1.
Day 1. So, day 1, you have your opening statements from both the prosecution and the defense. Right. The AUSA, Emily Johnson, said that the evidence is going to show that Diddy used his power, his influence, his entire corporation, which leads to the racketeering conspiracy. To coerce his girlfriends and sexual partners into performing a lot of these sexual acts that have been discussed in testimony, both by some of the escorts and by Cassie. It's been very graphic. There have been some jurors described as shaking their heads and almost covering their eyes at some of the text messages and the testimony that has come out during the first week of trial.
We got to get those text messages.
I agree.
We're going to work on that for y'all. We're going to work on it.
So this included sex with other men as he watched and recorded Cassie and some of the other victims in these encounters, using those as blackmail.
And by the way, that is like the age-old hip-hop horror story tale. I've been hearing about that since I moved to LA, that stuff will happen to you. People, not about Diddy, just in general, that the higher ups, usually it wasn't talked about like producers anyway. It was talked about like the big wigs that you never see at a party, right? That they would do things to get you to stay. They would put you in predicaments that you would not want anybody to find out about, to get you to sign deals that were less favorable for you.
And Cassie signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records. One of those albums were released throughout the duration of their 10-11-year relationship, obviously all the way up until 2025. Only one of those albums were released. And she said multiple times during her testimony this week that she was in fear for her career. She was in fear for her public image. She felt like at some point, if she did the wrong thing or didn't do the right thing, he would release some of the videotapes that he had of her.
You know, we're going to be fair, okay? 10, 11 years, and you got one album out, half a single, you don't got no career. What you scared? What you scared of losing? You losing a lot more on a daily basis than worrying about this thing that you haven't even got. It ain't like you doing this to like, I don't even want to put no names out there, but someone that we know that's like up there in the legendary status, or up there in the multi-platinum selling artists of all time kind of conversation. And it's like, yo, you got that on her. It's like, to keep it real, I'm just, people out there, y'all will agree with me. If you don't, let me know in the comments. If this doesn't happen, you kind of forget about Cassie for the most part until you hear that one song here and there.
I think that this is very much like what we saw and heard about with the R. Kelly situation. There are some folks who maybe dealt with traumatic circumstances leading up to their meeting of this superstar.
Yeah.
Some of them have daddy issues, and so they are more susceptible to this kind of abuse than others. So she didn't have a career ish, but she was still hoping to have one. She was still at some point holding on to the hope of being famous, reaching some kind of level of superstardom. So there was that, if he releases this video, even if it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, if he releases this video, I'm done for.
Yeah, and I guess to now be fair to her side, this is all hindsight.
Right.
You don't know it's going to be another year and another year and another year when it's happening.
Exactly.
And, in that lifestyle, which, she admits to, drug use and alcohol, and they partying and traveling. It's like time does go by a lot faster. It sounds worse when you're talking about an abusive, manipulative relationship and you're like 10, 11 years. But when you're living it,
right,
and you in this state, in this country, in this show, in this back, it don't feel like the same amount of time to us normal people. So I understand that.
And so the defense team kind of talked about that. They were saying that a lot of these victims were strong and capable adults who consented to the sex acts because they loved him or in some way benefited from all of this arrangement. Their defense team also mentioned that a lot of Diddy's fights with Cassie were motivated by jealousy and drugs, which she did admit to becoming addicted to drugs after having started engaging in these freak-offs with him. And the defense is alleging that she broke up with him in 2018 after Kim Porter's funeral, when she realized that they weren't going to have the monogamous relationship that she always expected that they would have. So you have the prosecution on one side that's saying Diddy is drugging these women and forcing and blackmailing them into all of these sexual acts.
Yeah.
And then the defense, on the other hand, is saying Cassie was getting all of this money, getting her apartments paid for, getting brand new cars, and she was doing it out of the love that she had for him and the expectation of their relationship. So we'll see how, see how it plays out.
Did the defense even try to deal with what we know? Because one thing for you to try to allege certain things is another thing for you to deal with what we know. Like Diddy did apologize for basically beating her all through the hotel room. Hotel building. We all saw the horrific scene that you can't get out of any of our heads. So did they even try to deal with that during the opening statement, or they just kind of let that?
A lot of what the defense said is that, yes, he did fight her in that hotel hallway, which is domestic violence, but it's not sex trafficking. It's not racketeering conspiracy. It's not transportation to engage in prostitution. Yes, they did have a very tumultuous relationship, but they were in a long-term 10-year relationship. So a lot of what the defense is saying is, yes, Diddy did do a lot of these things, but who's to say that we should be speaking on what goes on in their bedroom between two consenting adults? And what the defense is trying to prove is that Cassie and all of these other victims that have been named in this lawsuit were consenting adults.
Right.
So if 3, 4, 5 consenting adults decide to congregate in a bedroom or a hotel room or a coat closet, it's not our business what they do in there, as long as everyone agreed to be there and engage in the activity.
However, if it is an escort that you're paying for and bringing across state lines, even if they are a consenting adult, there's still a legal issue there.
Right. That's the one charge that I see the prosecution being able to nail easily. The other 2 charges, I think they're going to have a harder time with.
Yeah. And that's usually the issue. You know what I mean? It's like there's always these little nuances that the defense can put up. It's like, he did this, but you can't say that that's this.
Right.
Like, you're right. We have records that this person, was, this woman put the guy in the hospital multiple times because she was violent, but that doesn't mean that she, unalived him, as they say. It's like one doesn't automatically meet the other, but that's just the role of the defense. We know.
Exactly.
Common sense is like, well, come on.
Right.
Hey, you're going to be that, you're going to be that. All right. So
day 1, we hear from Israel Flores, who was working hotel security at the time of the 2016 video, and he testified to hearing Diddy tell Cassie, "You're not going to leave," and Flores told Diddy if she wants to leave, she's going to leave. Flores says that Diddy offered him an undisclosed sum of money. Flores said, "I'm not going to take your money. You just need to go back to your hotel room." The jurors also heard from Daniel Phillip.
You want no money from Diddy? That's crazy.
I mean, let's just hope that there are a lot of people out there that got that same conscience, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that Diddy paid off and we'll never hear from them. So shout out to Flores, who was like, "I'm going to do the right thing." So Daniel Phillip, who was a professional stripper at the time, was paid to have sex with Cassie while Combs watched and gave instructions, which is a theme that we heard throughout a lot of Cassie's testimony about these freak-offs, that Diddy was like in full production mode, like, you go here, you go there, you do this, you lift that.
I mean, Diddy's a producer. That's what we know him for.
But I mean,
hey, take that. Like, he's been. I wonder if he used his ad lib. I wonder if he used his bad boy ad libs.
That's nasty.
Take that.
Cassie also said that there were times where he wasn't even in the room during these freak offs. He would go to another room and watch it on FaceTime, which is a whole nother level of weird. A whole nother level of weird.
Puff was on demon time. I'm like,
right.
Y'all be right here.
Right.
I'm setting my own phone because I don't want putting this on airplane mode. Sit right there, and then went to the. That's crazy.
So Daniel Phillips said that he once saw Diddy dragging Cassie by her hair as she was screaming. So again, this goes to, yes, he was violent. Yes, there was domestic violence, but he's not being charged with that. He's not being charged with domestic violence. He's being charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
But why? Do you think, because I know when the first lawsuit, the civil suit was done, I know sometimes they put in like or maybe it's automatic. There's like a clause that like a relief of like responsibility kind of thing. Like, like when I pay you in that, it says you can't be bringing up nothing that already happened. It just has like a timestamp, like up until today, basically.
Not in a civil lawsuit. So that's in a non-disclosure. So if he made her sign a non-disclosure, that still doesn't apply to federal testimony. If the feds come knocking on your door and say, "We heard that you were involved with so-and-so doing such and such," your non-disclosure is null and void with the Fed. The feds can ask you whatever they want to ask you, and you have to answer their questions. And if they subpoena you to testify, you have to testify. Non-disclosure be damned.
So then why would they not put in the obvious domestic violence? Like, why would they not be trying to charge him with that when that's like a easy home run? Like, we don't get none of the rest of this. Like, this is obvious. He even admitted to it already.
Because it doesn't rise to the level of federal crime. So the state, California, New York, Florida can charge him with domestic violence if Cassie had gone and filed charges against him. But that didn't happen.
Got it.
So there's no one shaking a finger at him and saying, "You shouldn't have beat her."
All right. Okay. So let's get into day 2.
Okay. So day 2 was the first day of Cassie's testimony. Again, she's 8 months pregnant.
Let's go.
So, interestingly, the judge said that her husband, Alex Fine, who we'll talk about a bit later, Alex Fine can be in the courtroom for a portion of her testimony. There's a portion of her testimony where he has to leave the courtroom because the defense requested that he vacate during questioning about Cassie's allegations that Diddy raped her in 2018. And that's because Diddy's lawyers are saying that they may call him as a witness later to talk about that specific allegation.
That makes sense.
So we discussed that, and they discussed that in day 2. Cassie said that sometimes Diddy would mash her head, drag her, kick her, and stump her in the head while she was on the ground. And when she was asked how frequently he became violent with her, she said too often.
It's like you like this girl. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter
I mean,
some of these folks.
I don't make any excuse for, beating on your woman. But I do think it's a little different when you're like smashing her face into something. Like,
yeah. And there are multiple witnesses so far who have testified, and I'm sure will testify throughout the duration of the trial, that will say that they saw him beating her in different locations, in private, in public, etc.
Side note, we are not making light of anything that happened to Cassie.
Right.
We are trying to deal with this as a case, you know what I mean? And sometimes dealing with a trial case or with any information that you're not personally a part of, you kind of have to just take it for black and white and not involve too much color in it. And so, though we're kind of grazing over these things, it's not to minimize it, but it's just not our place to deep dive into what she was going through at that time. We hope that there's justice for her, and if all these allegations are true, then hey,
right,
Diddy deserves what happens.
Right.
But we do know that Cassie didn't deserve any of this.
So we go from him kissing her in the bathroom on her 21st birthday to the first freak off happening before she turned 22. So imagine the first year of your relationship, you go from being kissed on your 21st birthday to being asked to engage in what he called a freak off or wild king nights within a year.
21. You a kid.
Within a year.
You a kid. You have no clue what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
You
And she said that. She said she didn't feel like she could say no to him because she didn't know what no could be or what no could turn into.
Right.
And she felt like that could include violence and blackmail. So that means that she saw a lot from him already in that 1 year to where she felt like she couldn't say no.
How you think about that? I don't know if that's the first time actually having sex. I would, doubt it. But in the first year, already feeling like I can't say no to a full-on orgy.
Yeah.
Because who knows what he might do in the opening year?
And she said that she was sexually inexperienced when they first got together. So a lot of what she did and learned, happened in front of a camera with someone who she barely even knew, if at all. She found a lot of these escorts for their freak offs on Craigslist, Backpage, through word of mouth, again, a previous stripper. So there was a lot of learning that unfortunately happened for her very early.
Very early.
Especially early in their relationship.
And to jump into the freak off where now we're talking, like you said, escorts and baby oil and drugs and alcohol and
she says that she was introduced to ecstasy for the first time with him when they had sex on a boat during a trip to Miami. And she thought at the time that they were in a monogamous relationship. And then later on, she found out that that was not the case. She said that he became increasingly controlling and was violent sometimes, quoting, "You make the wrong face, and the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face."
And I heard someone, one of the news channels I was watching was doing some excerpts from her testimony, and it said he would say like, "Fix your face." Mm-hmm. Like, fixing, she would know what that meant. She had to stop frowning or she had to smile more or whatever because he might hit her.
Yeah. And I mean, she said that the longest freak off was 4 days. 4 days.
4 days.
Most of them took anywhere from 36 to 48 hours and required periods of recovery from dehydration, fatigue, and drug use.
They're taking IVs.
IVs to rehydrate, yes. Yeah.
But at that point, you're taking drugs to come up, drugs to come down, drugs to manage, drugs to the whole thing is synthetic.
Which led to her drug addiction.
Right.
And later on, she testified that he got upset at her at one point and told drug dealers to stop delivering drugs to her. So you got her addicted to drugs in the first place, and then when she needs to reach out to drug dealers to get her back up or bring her back down, like you said, you're trying to cut off her supply.
That's interesting. Like, do we know why? She's
because he was upset with her.
Oh, so it's more like punishment.
Right.
Got it. Right.
See,
I don't know why, but I'm always trying to find the good in humanity. So I'm like, oh, maybe that was just a moment where he's recognized, like, man, I really got you bad. Like, yo, y'all stop. Like, don't bring her nothing else. Nah, that wasn't it.
During her testimony, she said that he only wanted her to do drugs with him and not by herself or with any of her friends.
Yeah, because he connects drugs with their sex life.
Right.
So he's probably thinking, I know how you are when I get you there.
Right.
Like, you ain't doing that nowhere
with
else.
Anybody else.
You can do it with somebody else, but I need to be there.
I need to be producing the
somebody. Yeah. You can do it with somebody else, but I need to have said to do it with somebody else.
Yeah. She talked about his violent history. There was one time where he left a freak off with her to go and confront Suge Knight at Mel's Diner in
Heard
LA.
About that, yeah.
So she got really nervous about that, and she was saying, please don't do anything stupid, which made me, of course, think, what else had you seen of him before that day to make you think that he was going to do something crazy?
Right.
She did say that he and his security grabbed guns out of the safe, and they kind of rushed out of the house.
All black.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what has she seen, and what did she think they were going to do at the time?
And Suge said that he's glad they didn't find him, because there'll be a lot more people that got hurt that night.
Right.
If he had found him.
And side note, kind of connecting that back to some of the things that we heard about Diddy in the 90s and the 2000s about the situation that happened with him and Heavy D and the big party that they threw at that school, and where a lot of people got hurt. And then the situation with Shine, and where Shine ended up taking the rap for somebody that Diddy had shot. And then, of course, we heard Keefy D talking about Diddy being behind the murder of Tupac. So it sounds like we're seeing a lot of puzzle pieces get connected with Diddy's violent tendencies.
Yeah, that's a lot of smoke, Puff. I mean, these are all allegations, but that's a lot of smoke.
It is.
Maybe that's why I keep coughing during this episode. We just so much Diddy smoke.
So, of course, there are questions about why Cassie engaged in these freak offs and why she continued to do this. And she said that the first time that it happened, he was really happy with her, and it felt like she had done something right.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want to make him angry. And so she kept doing it. She said that they were doing these freak offs almost weekly, with the final freak off happening in 2017, 2018. So imagine every week for 10 years, give or take a few breaks where she decides to break up with him and go be with someone else. Imagine having sex with folks who she, in her testimony, said she couldn't even remember their names. She was shown pictures of 13 different escorts, and she was asked to name them. She was able to identify all of them, but some of them she didn't even know their real names. She identified one of them as the Punisher because she never found out his first name. Yeah.
Did they all look the same?
I don't know.
I want to see what they look like, because I really need to know, did Diddy have a type?
I don't know.
Because if they all
I don't know.
Look similar, I'm just saying.
I don't want to know.
That's wild.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Yeah. I really don't, because if all of these men look the same, then there is an additional allegation that we can leverage against Diddy. I'm not gonna say it because I don't judge what you do in the bedroom. It's your business. But I'm just saying, if you have a type, then. So we also found out about the baby oil. We also found out about the baby oil. So Cassie said that each freak off will require about 10 large bottles of baby oil. So I think they said they found 1,000 bottles.
1,000 bottles.
So that's
1,000 bottles of baby oil on the wall.
Okay. Moving on. She said that there was one time where she had to get in a blow-up pool of baby oil and lube in a hotel room with her clothes on.
That's another level.
I don't understand doing it with your clothes on.
I'm starting to understand why Puff needed all these escorts. Like, Puff ain't no young man no more. If you having this much going on every week for hours now, yo, I'm gonna just keep it real. Puff dry.
No, because they said that he was pleasuring himself during these freak
That don't mean nothing happened. That don't mean nothing came out. Puff dry.
Moving on. So there were times where he recorded.
Dry.
There were times where he recorded these freak offs, and Cassie said that he told her that it was for him for later. And she said that there were situations where they watched playback of these recordings while they were having sex. So it's like he used it almost as his personal POR.
Yeah.
Nasty.
But okay, so now let's get into it. We kind of touched on it in the beginning, but let's get into it. You don't do something, let me not say you don't. Let me say, just like the drugs. In the beginning, she was introduced to the drugs.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I'm pretty sure she was disgusted in the drugs.
Yes.
But there were probably some times, some years, that she was actually into the drugs as well, right?
Yeah, she said that she was she did every freak off, she was high. She said that
So you're high every week.
She said that she used drugs for each and every freak off because she had to almost numb herself. She's, again, having sex with strangers to please a man that she was hoping to be in a monogamous relationship with. So she was high for a long time. And then she got addicted to opioids, trying to cope. You know, she said that it was cocaine. She was doing ecstasy. She was doing opioids. She was smoking a whole lot of weed. Like, she was doing a lot of drugs.
That is a lot.
A lot of drugs.
So she's doing all that to numb herself. And I guess that takes away kind of what the defense was trying to position to say, like, but maybe you like this too. You know what I mean? Maybe this is just two consenting adults that are in a room. It sounds wild to us, regular people, but to people that have like an indispensable amount of cash, they can go anywhere, they can do whatever. Like, maybe this is just normal every week kind of fun that now you look back and now you got an issue with it, but you liked it while it was happening.
Which, again, goes back to the benefit of having college-educated jurors who will be able to decipher the jury instructions for each charge.
Yeah.
Because, yes, she was taking all of these drugs and all of that kind of stuff. So the defense, I'm sure, is hoping that when they go back to deliberate, they'll be able to look at these jury instructions and decide she took all of these drugs. She could have said no, but she didn't.
Yeah.
So.
Right. She wasn't messed up before she took the drugs. Like, she went into this willingly.
Right.
I don't know if you can prove that how hard would it be able to prove that she was under duress? Because you can say somebody willingly shot somebody, but if they did it under duress, that changes things. So how could they prove that?
Well, they won't be able to prove duress because duress requires a higher element. Yeah. However, they will be able to say that she was looking forward to this 10-album deal, and had she not performed the way that he asked her to, then she wouldn't have been able to release these 9 albums, which ultimately she didn't release anyway. But is it duress when it comes to, you know, you just wanting to pursue a music career?
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, we've heard so much about these freak offs. I know y'all have heard about freak offs so much that, you know, it now is just like, you're a little numb to it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's crazy that things can come at you so fast. No Diddy. That something like that can end up you just being numb to that phrase. But like, she got into some serious details.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like baby oil and clothes, and now I'm over here modeling rubbing baby oil. She talked about having men urinate in her mouth.
Yeah, there was a time where she said that there was a freak off where 2 people were urinating on her at once.
The 2 girls in a cup let us all know there are some freaky people in this world. To the point where I genuinely can say there's two things that I can say about my life, and I'm very proud that I will carry this forever. Number one, I've never tried chitlins. Will not. I will always be able to say that. Number two, I never watched Two Girls in a Cup. When people start saying,
you never saw it?
Never saw it. People start saying, you got to watch that. I was like, why? Y'all, like, the energy was off. Like, when people were saying, like, oh, you got to see that. I'm like, no, I don't want whatever that is.
But you were also the person that didn't want to do what everybody else was doing anyway.
That's true.
So, it's a good thing that you never saw it, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it was disgusting.
I heard later on. I finally heard about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on. Moving on. There are some freaks in this world, but
yeah. But there are videos of the freak offs that Cassie provided and that the feds got when they raided both his LA and his Miami home. And the detail of these freak offs is so graphic that it's only being shown to the jury and the attorneys. So the gallery, all of the folks who have been in the courtroom, the media, none of them are seeing any of these videos. Only the jury is being shown these videos. So there are monitors that are facing the jury that are blocked off from everyone else.
And the thing that they talked about, or she talked about, with, I guess, Diddy rubbing some other
nasty stuff, y'all.
So just think.
Nasty.
Let's try to have this
Diddy
conversation.
was into some different kind of stuff.
The birds and the bees.
And the birds and the birds.
There's a fluid that must be involved in the story of the birds and the bees in order for life to further itself. One may say, I like to use that as a nipple lubricant.
Nasty. Moving on. So they talked about the 2016 video. Again, Cassie is still on the stand. They talked about the 2016 video, and they asked why she never pressed charges, and she said she didn't want to hurt him in that way. But interestingly enough, a couple of days, literally 2 days after the situation at the Intercontinental Hotel, they were at a movie premiere together. At that movie premiere, she was wearing sunglasses to cover up her black eye. They said that she used a ton of makeup to cover up her bruises. She snuck into a popcorn closet at the movie theater to switch dresses so nobody would see the bruises on her legs. They asked that the prosecution asked if she ever tried to fight back when he picked a fight with her, and she said she tried earlier in their relationship, but she learned that even trying to fight back could escalate the fight even more, so she stopped trying.
You hear that a lot, like women that get abused in these relationships and they stay in them. It's like, okay, do I want to fight back and get hit once? Oh no, do I want to not fight back and maybe I got hit once or twice, or fight back and get stomped and thrown and slammed? You know what I mean? Because I'm doing nothing but making them more and more angry. Like, that's a sad situation to be in, but I mean,
yeah,
survival, I guess, at that point.
Right. She talked about in 2013, she was packing to go to Drake's music festival in Canada, and he fought with her and her friends, and he threw her into a bed frame. His security at the time took her to a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills to get the wound stitched up, and she texted him a photo of her injuries, quote, "so you can remember." And his response was, "You don't know when to stop. You pushed it too far and continue to push. Sad."
Wow.
So he acknowledged via text that he had hurt her in this way, and he blamed her, just like a lot of abusers do, for her own injuries.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's just sad you don't know when to stop.
Right.
I know when to stop.
Right.
Clearly. I know. I have restraint. I have self-control. Right. But you are just so out of control.
Right. There was testimony that he accused her of taking drugs from him and he kicked her off of a yacht where they were staying. She said she left the boat with no shoes on. Her passport and other belongings were also left behind.
A lot of people talked about that yacht trip, and that's when they saw, and people start kind of getting this feeling like, oh, shoot. Like maybe something is going on with them. Yeah, I did hear about that.
And again, back to the jurors kind of shaking their heads and covering their eyes. There was one juror whose eyes widened at one of the images that were shown from one of their sex parties, and it was Cassie and a male sex worker who was only identified as Jules, and another juror shook his head from side to side as the image was shown. Again, the images are only being shown in the jury box and the witness stand, and the gallery and the overflow rooms are not being shown any of the sexually explicit content.
Like, okay, so just real quick so people understand, like, why present that level of imagery? Why, you got these images, you got these videos, you have these visuals as evidence, but why is it important when it's because it could potentially make people feel, just like so angry, or basically it can rise the emotion too high. You know what I'm saying?
To the jury, you mean?
To the jury, like showing the jury. I guess what I'm saying is, why does the prosecution feel like these images are necessary for knowing that these are also very personal? I guess that's what I'm saying, like drawing that line of like personal and professional. Could they have gotten the point across without like revealing their personal life so much?
Probably, but the prosecution's goal is to convict.
Right.
So if they show these images to the jury who are so shockingly awful, then these images might paint a picture in the jurors' heads of Diddy. And so when they go back into the deliberation room, though they are not supposed to, the jurors are only supposed to weigh the evidence. But if you paint a picture in the jurors' minds of a defendant, you can almost convict that defendant of anything once you have convinced the jury that this is a really bad guy.
Yeah.
So if you show the jurors what Cassie was subjected to because of Diddy's demands and requests, then they might kind of overlook some of the verbiage in the jury instructions. Again, though they are not supposed to, they might convict just because of their personal opinions of him, which in my opinion is why this is an allegation and only an allegation. I do not know this for sure, but I think that the prosecution is who really was behind the leaking of the 2016 hotel video, because this is, of course, before a jury was selected. But if you leak this video that you know that the world is going to see, your potential jurors are part of the world.
Yeah.
So your potential jurors are going to see Diddy kicking Cassie in this hotel hallway. So you're going to prejudice the jury before they get selected.
But what about the situations where it's like they can't pick a jury because everybody knows too much? Could that backfire?
No, because most jurors are not going to say, they're not going to admit that they saw the video. Most jurors,
I thought most jurors be trying to get out, so they be trying to find any reason.
You have most jurors who are trying to get out of jury duty. However, this is the most high profile trial that we've had in a very long time. So there are a lot of people who wanted to be on this jury.
That's right, because this is a federal case. Because you don't know with a state case. With a state case, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't know when you're going through jury selection who the defendant is.
That's correct. You are made aware of the charges, and so a lot of the questions during voir dire, which is the questioning of potential jurors before jury selection, they ask you if you have any family members who might have been convicted of this same crime, or do you know anyone who has been involved in a similar situation. But because this is such a high profile trial, they have to ask Do you know Diddy? Do you know Cassie? How much of this have you seen? Did you watch the video? How much do you know?
Right.
And most people have seen the video.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. I could see that. I could see them putting that out there. We know we're going to trial eventually.
Exactly.
And if we don't, fine. Then it was unnecessary. But if we do, we've already
planted
know the monster in which sits before you.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good strategy.
Exactly. So that pretty much concludes day 2. She did say at the end of testimony on day 2, in response to a question of why now? Why is she coming forward now? Why is she testifying now?
Yeah.
She said she couldn't take the pain anymore. She had tried to walk out the front door into traffic, almost to commit suicide.
Wow.
And later on, she underwent rehab and trauma therapy. So she had gotten to the point where she just couldn't take it anymore. The voices in her head were just too loud. And she decided, I just have to get this over with.
And so just to be clear, what she's talking about is the civil suit against him. Because this case that we're talking about now, the trial, is brought by the feds.
Right.
So just for everybody to know, it's not she couldn't take it anymore, so that's why this trial is happening.
Right.
That's why the lawsuit happened, which then, as we told you in the beginning, showed the trial.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So then we have day 4, which is cross-examination. So that's Diddy's defense team.
Hold on, what about day 3?
We talked about day 3.
Okay. You said that's the end of day 2. Okay. Maybe I heard you wrong.
Or maybe I just said it wrong.
Okay. So on day 4.
Yes.
Okay.
We're now on day 4.
Day 4.
So day 4 is the cross-examination of Cassie. So that's Diddy's defense team asking Cassie questions.
Right.
So they talked about something that was really interesting. So Cassie started calling Diddy Pop Pop.
Right. I was like, what is that?
She started calling him Pop Pop. So that was a name, weirdly, that was a name that she used to call her grandfather.
What, when she was 6?
When I don't know the age, but she used to call her grandfather Pop Pop. And she said that she wanted to call him a name that nobody else called him. Again, kind of in that space where she thought naively that she was going to have him to herself. So she thought they were going to be in this monogamous relationship. She thought that everybody else was on the outside. Everybody else was calling him Diddy and Puff Daddy and all of these other things. And she decided she was going to call him Pop Pop.
You couldn't think of nothing else? Call him Lampshade. Ain't nobody called him that.
But you know what? I don't know, because I'm not in the courtroom. I don't know if the defense got into Cassie's upbringing, her family history. If I was on the defense team, I would have tried to paint the picture that Cassie maybe dealt with some family trauma. She had her own daddy issues or something like that.
Yeah.
To where she leaned in to this kind of abuse. So it wasn't necessarily Diddy imposing it on her, but more so her seeking it out. Again, I'm saying that this would have been a great defense strategy.
Yeah.
Not that this is in any way related to her life. But I feel like her calling him the name that she used to call her grandfather speaks to maybe what she wanted from him or the role that he played in her life or something like that. Because, like, I'm never going to call you any name that I call my grandfather. Like, that's weird.
That's super weird.
That's weird. But he liked it, which is also weird.
I don't know which one's worse. Like, what's worse? You want to call him Pop Pop? Or he's like, you called your granddad that?
I'm your granddad.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So also, interestingly enough, is where we get to Cassie talking about her loving the freak-offs. So in August of 2009, Diddy asked her, do you want to freak off, in a text message, and she responded, I'm always ready to freak off.
Okay. All right, we're here. We are here.
She said, I'm always
ready to freak off.
And in July of 2013,
I based my whole thing on that. Sorry.
Via text message, Diddy's lawyer said that it was Cassie who raised the idea of having a freak off, saying, quote, "I wish we would have freak offed before you left." And in 2017, Cassie texted him, "I love our freak offs when we both want it."
Yo, this is why you gotta wait. This is exactly why when you in court, if any of you ever find yourself in court, the judge will tell you, wait. Even in the opening arguments, both sides will tell you, wait to cast your judgment.
Yep.
Wait until you hear the evidence on both sides. Because no matter how bad it is on one side, there's a whole nother picture.
Yeah.
And I cannot front. To hear that is like, that says a lot.
Day 4 is when we see a lot of
Wow.
the text messages back and forth between Diddy and Cassidy. So, why do I keep calling her Cassidy?
I don't know, but the hustler is coming for you.
Sorry, Cassidy.
You're going to deal with the problem.
A lot of the text messages
Where you darn, man?
Diddy and Cassie
young boy over
are
here.
revealed in day 4. So the defense has Cassie reading a lot of the text messages verbatim between her and Diddy. Obviously, some of them graphic in nature, some of them talking about the love that she has for him, some of them talking about the love that he has for her. He was telling her, "I love you so much, it makes me cry." So there was a lot of perceived love between the two of them, which again is going to make it very difficult for the prosecution to make its case. I don't see it happening personally.
I wonder if Tina and Ike ever made.
If they
had
funny?
Went to trial and we had to really dig into it, what it would have looked like behind closed doors.
What's interesting about you bringing up Tina and Ike is there was one text message that came up in trial during Cassie's testimony where she texted him. She told him she felt like he was treating her like he was Ike Turner.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's funny.
Mm-hmm. And then what?
So she was hoping that they had some kind of a monogamous relationship again. She told him in a 2009 email that she wanted more from him than just sexual partnership. And she said, "In order for me to be more open with the things that we do in bed, I need to feel safe, like home. This is my husband, and this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive sexual side of me." So again, this is coming out during the defense questioning of her, which is making it sound like she was very much a willing participant, very much willing to be sexually aggressive and pursuing of these freak offs.
That takes us back to what we started out with when I said you were talking about them waiving their right to a speedy trial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's what I would want, is a confident defense team, right? I get why they were confident now.
Yeah.
Because this takes everything and kind of flips it on its head. And that's what the defense is supposed to do.
Absolutely.
The defense is supposed to say, here's your reasonable doubt.
Right.
Here's your reasonable doubt.
Right.
She is not just this flowery, immature, inexperienced girl who's lost in the power thralls of this mogul, and she can't stop anything, and he's just dictating her life, and she's just hoping that he'll pass down a lifestyle of luxury for her and fame.
Right.
And so she doesn't know what to do. No, I'm gonna show you she kind of about that.
Right. They talked about her being jealous of his relationship with Kim Porter. She said that on one occasion he left one of their freak offs to go see Kim Porter at another hotel. She said that she was upset that he spent holidays with his kids and Kim Porter and not with her. So they're suggesting at this point the only reason that you're coming out is not because you were upset about these freak offs or because you felt like you were manipulated or forced in any way. Right. You just didn't get what you wanted. You thought you was going to be main squeeze, and he showed you that you was side chick.
Hell hath no fury.
Unfortunately.
Like a woman scorned.
Unfortunately, she said in a text to him, she said, "You're making me look like a side piece, and that's not what I thought I was."
Yeah, just the delusion in that.
I mean,
you're making me look like it, and that's not what I thought.
And again, it goes back to what was her upbringing, what was her childhood like, what trauma might she have been dealing with when she met him? Because why did you think that you was gonna be Diddy's main squeeze? He's 40 something, you 19.
Yeah.
You just coming in the game, you don't have anything to offer. No shade. I'm just saying, like, why did you think that he was gonna prioritize you over everybody else?
Right.
You don't have no kids with this man. You can't give this man nothing that he doesn't already have. Why did you think he was going to be main squeeze?
We should do, because nobody's really tapping into that. Maybe we should look into that, like, for what we can find. You know, we're amateur journalists.
Of her background.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we probably won't get anything too deep, but even like sometimes just the surface level. You know, who was Pop Pop? How close were you to
I don't want to know
the
about
OG Pop Pop?
I don't want to know about Pop Pop.
Pop Pop 1 might have been a dope dude. Like,
I don't want to know about
Pop Pop 1 might have been that guy. Like, he could have been like, you know, the mayor in some town, or it could have went and built churches in third world countries. Like, Pop Pop 1 might have been him. I'm just saying. So then, but maybe Pop Pop 1 wasn't around. You see what I'm saying? Because he's doing all of God's work. And then my dad, him and my mom didn't work out, and he don't know how to be a dad because Pop Pop 1 wasn't a dad to him, so he wasn't even around me like that.
I agree. I think that her.
I'm making all this up, clearly. I'm just making it up.
Important, but I don't want to know about Pop Pop.
Okay.
I want to believe that Pop Pop 1 is a God sent angel who was the complete opposite of Diddy. But if that's the case, why are you calling Diddy Pop Pop? Anyway,
I'm just saying that before I found out about Freeway Ricky, I was okay with just knowing Rick Ross. I'm saying, but then you find out, you're like, oh, this is really interesting to know. That's all I'm saying.
And that was before you found out that Rick Ross was actually a correctional officer who was not. Okay. So day five. So Friday. Still cross-examination. So the defense is still questioning Cassie, still have Cassie on the stand. Okay. The prosecutors at this point, though, are getting kind of tricky because the prosecutors and the defense have a conversation with the judge outside of the presence of the jury where they're basically saying, Judge, I need you to tell the defense to hurry up because we don't want Cassie to go into labor while she's on the stand. I think it's an excellent defense strategy because, excellent prosecution strategy because the defense is pulling stuff out of Cassie that is almost damaging for the prosecution's case.
But are they saying that in front of the jury?
No. This is outside the presence of the jury. So they're having a conversation with the judge before the jury is brought into the courtroom. And they're like, hey, if she goes into labor while she's on the stand, that could result in a mistrial. We don't want this to result in a mistrial because of all of the things that a mistrial brings. Yeah. It's now a waste of taxpayer resources and all of this kind of stuff, judicial time and resources. So let's hurry up and wrap this up. Tell them to stop asking questions because we need to do redirect and they need to do recross. So tell them to hurry up. It's unknown what the judge actually said as far as their request goes, but Cassie is still on the stand day 5. They talk about the 2016 video. Again, the defense is asking questions about it, and the defense brings out of Cassie that Diddy and Cassie were having text messages back and forth expressing love to each other just a couple of days after the hotel situation happened. After. So Cassie texted him and said, we need a different vibe from Friday, which is when the 2016 video
I heard
happened.
about that. Basically, they're saying, like, you still trying to work on this relationship.
Right.
Like, we need a different vibe. Says, like...
You weren't that mad. You had a black eye. You had bruises. You went to this movie premiere. You went home. You slept on it. You woke up the next day and you was missing your boo thing. Basically, is what happened.
You know, or are you... Think about it. I've been scared of you since the first year that I, kissed you, right?
Right.
I've been scared of your violence.
Right.
So after that, are you thinking not so much of what he did, but you're thinking as a victim, like, uh-oh, I messed up.
Right.
Uh-oh, I've upset Pop Pop.
Right.
Since you won't let me call him
We're
Pop
not
Pop
going to call him Pop Pop anymore.
I want to call him Pop Pop too.
No.
But okay, I've upset Pop Pop. I need to make it right. Right?
Right.
So it reads a certain way, but it's supposed to.
Right.
It's supposed to read like, oh, we just need a new vibe. When really she wants to say like, I wish I could unalive you.
I don't think she wanted to say that.
No?
Because there were times where she said she didn't hate him. She didn't hate him then. She doesn't hate him now. I don't think she ever got to the point where she felt that level of rage for him. It almost feels like Stockholm Syndrome, where you are developing feelings for your abuser or your captor.
Yeah.
So she never felt that about him. There were occasions where she decided she wanted to break up with him, but she never felt those feelings toward him. Interestingly enough, though, in those times that she broke up with him, and I say broke up because she was still dealing with him when they broke up, there have been some high profile names to come out already in week 1 of this trial. It says that there was a time where she broke up with Diddy and started dating Michael B. Jordan. Right.
Oh.
There was a time where Diddy was upset with her because she was allegedly dating Chris Brown. There was the time where she was dating Kid Cudi, and both Cassie and Kid Cudi said that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car because he was saying that he didn't want her messing around with anybody else. And one day, Kid Cudi's car was parked in his driveway in front of his house, and kaboom.
Kind of weird that you blew up, allegedly, Kid Cudi's car, but you don't do nothing to Chris Brown. You don't do nothing to Michael B. Jordan. Maybe because they're more like A-list celebrities, so they security is intact. Like, how much security do Kid Cudi have?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like low-hanging fruit. Like, I can get to you.
That makes
sense. I can touch you a lot easier than I can touch Michael B. Jordan.
Right. But then on the flip side, we're talking about Diddy's aggression. There was a recording that the defense played where Cassie had a video or an audio recording of herself telling someone, I think his name was Sujit, telling Sujit that she would kill him because he claimed to have a video on his phone of her during a freak off.
Right.
And she was like, I've never killed anyone in my life, but I will kill you if this video gets released. So the defense is like, Diddy was a maniac, but Cassie was a maniac too. Again, allegedly, because I ain't never met her. Don't come at me.
Right.
But they're like, you weren't just this meek and mild, soft-spoken person who you were trying to be when the defense was examining you.
Right.
You were somebody who was threatening to kill people.
Right. Stop crying.
Right.
And let's get to that other side of you that told him, I will put you in the desert.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a regular threat.
Right.
Like, I will. They keep saying unalive. People don't say the word that you said.
Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Maybe we shouldn't say it. Like, I will KU.
Yeah.
We're gonna replace it with hug. I will hug you.
No.
I will hug you. I will put you in the desert. That is not regular talk.
It's not. I mean, because this is the hip hop report, I feel like we can talk about it. But Big U just recently, LA Crip was just recently charged with something very similar, where there was a situation with him and one of his recording artists in Vegas where he unalived somebody or hugged them too hard, and they ended up in a desert. So yeah, they're almost trying to equate Cassie to someone who was willing to do any and everything, which again, how could you be coerced into doing all of these things if you got that kind of person in you?
Yeah.
If you about that life, can't nobody force you to do anything.
And how they got so many tapes just flying around?
There was a lot of recording going on between these two, like a weird amount of recording. Why would you record yourself telling somebody, I'm gonna kill you? I mean, hug you.
Yeah.
And dump you in the desert. Why would you record that?
Yeah. Like, that's and it just keeps popping up. Oh, you got something. And it's supposed to be your friend, Sujit, allegedly. Like, hey, I kind of got this thing. Like, I wonder what that conversation was. Because you don't just hit somebody and just say that and then they wild out on you.
Right.
Like, you got to say, I got this and I'm going to do what with it? I'm going to try to sell it. Because you don't, if this is your people, you'd be like, well, how you get that?
Right.
And let me talk to them. Like, send it to me and then delete it. And that's your people.
Right.
It's done.
Right.
Yeah. You ain't got to go hugging people, Cassie. You ain't got to hug people like that.
So coming up on the end of day 5 and wrapping up Cassie's testimony, the defense got Cassie to say that she doesn't hate him, and they asked her if she still had love for him, and she said, I have love for the past and what it was. And then they decided to talk about Cassie's allegation that Diddy raped her, basically trying to suggest that it wasn't necessarily rape and it was more consensual. And interestingly enough, Diddy and Cassie continued to exchange warm, lovey-dovey texts even after she married her current husband. And that, I think, was a bad look for her, because this is somebody who beat you and forced you to have sex with unknown people, and now you're married, you're happy, you have kids, and you still exchanging cutesy text messages with your abuser. Again, I don't know what it's like to be abused. So I can't say.
And she won't ever.
You better say that.
Ever. You
better say that. So I don't know what she might have been thinking, what she might have been feeling. Was this, before she went to therapy, which the defense also talked about. They talked about her going to trauma therapy. And Cassie had talked about having PTSD. So, we don't know what was going on with her as to why she was still texting him.
But I mean, let's keep it real. I think we didn't. I don't think we talked about it. But this personal trainer is somebody that Diddy has set her up with, not like set her up in a relationship sense, but he hired him as her personal trainer back before she had her breast augmentation, and he got her stylist. Getting her right. I'm pretty sure she, brought all that in. Like, oh yeah, make me a star. And now this same guy is now the husband. Diddy got to feel some kind of way about that. I don't care what nobody say, because he's super possessive. Without even going into the abuse and all of that, he's clearly incredibly possessive, which is like that once mine, always mine kind of idea or kind of mentality. And now you're with somebody that I put you with.
So, or does he feel like you still live in my circle? Because you are now permanently if they say married, but you are now permanently connected to somebody that is connected to me. So you still haven't moved outside of our bubble. I connected you with this personal trainer and you married him. You're still orbiting in my space.
Hey, we done talked about Puff. We done talked about Suge. We done talked about Shine. We done talked about LA Crip. We done talked about a lot of people, but the true gangster of this entire week is the personal trainer, because he know about Diddy to a certain degree. He done heard her talk about the stuff that Diddy has done. So I know they pillow talk is way different than what we're getting. So he know about the Cuddy situation. He know about the going to Mel's Diner situation. He know all the stuff that Puff is capable of, and he's like, I'ma still marry you. That's gangster.
But or
anything can happen to you, my brother.
Is it an opportunity? Is he an opportunist? Is he, Cassie used to be connected to Diddy. Cassie is somebody that's up and coming. Let me hitch my wagon to an
She's not up and coming.
She might have been at the time.
She's far and going. No, they ain't been there. They ain't been together that long.
She's far and going.
Sorry, we're not supposed to be. I'm just saying.
Far and going is crazy.
I'm just saying. I can see if it was like early on, but it's like that single came out mad long ago.
It did.
There's nobody checking for her as an artist. I believe that he has like a genuine affinity for her, a genuine attraction for her, which is great. She's a beautiful girl. Like, cool. I don't know her personality. I know she has some highs and lows, clearly, but to still, I'm telling you, for any man to be like, I'm willing to still deal with all that potentiality. Like, most men don't even want you to have like a violent baby daddy or a possessive ex, but you're going to have a possessive, rich, powerful, connected, capable of violence ex, and you still stepping through the door? You still let her park in front of the crib and you know the car? Like, I'm telling you, that's gangster.
I wonder, though, if that's because Diddy never showed any aggression toward him in their relationship. Like,
he knows. She told him. He knows.
But he blew up Kid Cudi's car and they were only
allegedly
dating.
Right, and he came in and married her. You get what I'm saying? Like,
but was it
that was a date? And bro, you see what I did to his car? And it was a date. You talking about some I do's? Okay, I do. Let me do then.
But Diddy
Watch
never
what
did.
I do.
But he didn't do.
How long have they been married? Do we know?
I don't know.
I haven't looked at it.
I know that she's pregnant with their third kid, so I don't know how long they've been married.
Okay.
But
We're going to leave that. We're going to leave that. Anyway. Hold on. We didn't talk about it. I don't know what day this happened. Maybe it's this day, but just in, Flex drop a bomb. Clue hit the siren. If y'all remember when Jonathan Odie popped up, what was this, like 2023?
This was during Trump's first presidency.
A while ago. I forgot what year.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to put it. In Trump's first presidency, which was, I try not to remember this.
2016
to 2020.
Yeah.
That's right, because I think it might have been 2018 that happened. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if y'all saw it, but some guy goes and shoots up some building, some Trump facility or whatever, and gets arrested. While he's being interrogated, he just starts going off at the mouth, asking the officer, like, do you know Sean Combs and you know Cassie? Yeah, like I'm their sex slave. And of course, everybody's like, what? Now people report on it because it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you somehow, where is that swing? You went and did some political, what seemed like some political gesture, and now you're talking about being a sex slave to Cassie and Diddy?
Yeah, he said that he had sex with Cassie and Sean Diddy. Basically, he would, again, this is a quote from Adi. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do to Cassie. I had like 15 encounters and I heard lots of business. I was like a sex slave. For them, that's what I was. This was in 2018.
Okay, all right, I got it. So 2018. We know nothing about this. Ain't no video yet.
Yep.
Ain't no apology from Puff. Ain't no lawsuit from Cassie. We don't even know. We had some whispers about the black eye.
Right.
That's kind of all we really knew. Yo, Hip Hop Report is this is not what we thought we'd be covering.
Yeah.
When the show started. But however, we gotta report to y'all what hip hop is. And as bad as the situation is, there is no producer that is as noteworthy as Diddy in the past 2 decades. Am I lying? 3 decades. Am I lying? His reign started back in the 90s. This 2025.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 decades of dominance. Bad Boy South. He's been doing this. The band, like, Diddy has been on fire forever. So, and the extensions of him and the producers that worked under him and the artists and the restaurants and the clothing. I mean, like, he is part of the pop culture.
Yeah.
beyond hip hop culture. He's an icon.
Yeah, he contributed a lot.
So
he gave us Mary. He gave us Jodeci. He gave us Shine. He gave us Jadakiss. He gave us 112.
How you skip Big? He gave us Big.
Well,
baby. Why you say me? He gave us.
Big tried to leave.
But he still,
Diddy
but he still
had him killed.
But he still brought us, hugged him. He hugged him.
Yes.
We still, he still brought us Big.
Yeah.
Right. Still brought us Craig Mack.
Yeah.
Brought us. You said Total.
I did not say
brought
Total.
us Total.
Yeah.
Like Mace.
Yeah.
Brought us Mace.
Yeah. Lil Kim.
Junior
All
Mafia.
Of Junior Mafia. Yeah.
Like, and the list could go on.
Yeah.
It literally could go on.
Did we say no? He didn't bring us Heavy D.
No.
But he partnered with Heavy D.
Shame your lips.
He partnered with Heavy D in that whole high school party thing.
Yeah, yeah. But like, it doesn't make us feel good to have to relay this kind of information, but it is of historical value in hip hop for us to cover this.
Right.
And so that us as a hip hop community are clear on exactly what happened, because no matter what they tell you, we got to know our history, good, bad, and indifferent.
Yep.
We can't hide it.
Right.
It is what it is. Like, there's allegations about African Bambaataa. I wish we could deal with that. There's allegations about Russell Simmons. Right. Like, there's a lot of stuff. We ain't going to be the ones to throw it out there, but if it ever comes to light, we're going to be right here reporting it to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So back to Adi. So Adi ultimately was telling the truth, as wild as it seemed.
Yeah.
And I've said that to you a lot of times. Like, one thing I know about Hollywood, not just hip hop, but Hollywood spends to the tunes of trillions of dollars making sure that their secrets stay secret.
Yeah.
So when you get a glimpse of it, if you happen to hear about it, it's probably true.
Right.
If you heard that person did something, that person goes this way, or that, it's probably true, because they tried their best to keep it in the closet and it got out because it got too big.
Yeah. I mean, Adi said that he recorded their session on a USB that he bought from a store that sells discrete recording devices. So he said he put it on the table and filmed the entire freak off session. He had it transcribed, and they were threatening him.
Transcribe.
And he said, when I left, I knew they were paranoid, so I wanted to guarantee my safety. So I said, I text them, if anything happens to me, I have evidence of being with you.
Oh.
He settled with Diddy in 2014 for $5 million.
You got shorted Adi. But Adi's like, hey, man, I normally get like, $25K over here, $15K maybe, right? Nice trips, T-bone dinner, something like that, a great time, and a flight back home.
Yep.
And so $5 million is a lot of money.
I don't think he knew that he could have requested.
He probably didn't.
He could have asked for Cassie dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like he could have got more than 20 for the simple fact that at the time, we ain't know nothing.
Right.
We ain't know nothing.
Right.
If Cassie, the horse's mouth, is only getting 20, like this dude, I'm outing both of y'all.
Right.
Like,
because I don't have.
I need 100. I need 100.
I don't have any reason. If I'm Adi, I don't have any reason to keep this a secret.
Right.
Cassie, of course, wanted to protect herself and protect her image. Diddy wants the same.
You in the image.
Adi is like, she had an image. She was singing the song and doing the dance. She was doing the thing. She had an image.
She had an image. You're right, babe.
Adi didn't have nothing to lose.
Nothing.
A settlement from Diddy would have retired him. He wouldn't have been an escort anymore.
But Adi also seemed like the type. He's a rough looking guy. He's a rough looking guy. He seemed like he's had a rough life, and he's been around some really, serious people in his life. So he probably understands that. But the higher the stakes go, the higher the stakes go. Mm-hmm. So you start talking about getting somebody to pay you 100, 200, 300 million. things get a little different in that air. That air feels different.
But I think when you ask somebody for $100 million, I mean, like, that's a really big number. At that point, people start disappearing you.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. I'm saying he's been around the kind of people where he's like, I don't want to get into that range. I don't want to get into the range where you want to hug me too hard. I want to be in the range that you want to make me happy.
I feel like
give me that happy money.
I feel like even asking for $5 million though is risking getting hugged too hard because you're nobody. We don't know you. If you just disappear one day, it's not going to make the news.
Maybe costs a lot less.
Does it though? If you have people in your back pocket who are already either unaliving people or seriously harming people, is it going to cost more than $5 million for them to do what they have to do and keep their mouth closed? I don't think so.
No, I don't. We saying the same thing. That's what I meant. I was saying
you're saying it would have cost a lot less.
It would have cost a lot less
just
to hug him. Have him hugged. Go get a little cuddle. It would have been cheaper to cuddle.
Don't cuddle me. Don't cuddle me.
You're like, I'm never asking you to cuddle again.
Ever again.
All right, so that was the week.
That was week 1.
That was week 1. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. If there's anything that we missed, please tap in. Let us know. We will continue watching week 2.
And there are no cameras allowed in this courtroom because this is a federal trial. We came this close with one of Trump's trials, but unfortunately, the Supreme Court has ruled that there will still be no cameras allowed in federal proceedings. So we will keep our ear to the ground, make sure that we are keeping up to date with everything that's going on every day of Diddy's trial, and we will bring that to you in a Hip Hop Report.
That's a fact. I am Cashmere California. This is Mrs. California. Well, holla. Peace.